Hey guys, in this video I think we're gonna go over my top 10 favorite playing cards. So let's get started. Before we get into the list though, let's do some honorable mentions, okay? So we'll start with the 10 of diamonds, okay? So I think the 10 of diamonds is a good card. It doesn't quite make the top 10 list, but it's a good card because think about it, it's like a big number with a lot of diamonds on it, so it's like pretty cool. So the next honorable mention is going to be the Jack of Hearts. So this one was kind of really hard to not put in the top 10 list because if you look closely, right, the Jack is kind of, he's looking at the heart, and I think that really says something deep about life and how about we all need to feel loved and cared about. So I think the Jack of Hearts almost makes the top 10 list, but not quite. Cool, so now let's actually get into our top 10 list. So number 10 is going to be the Ace of Hearts. And the reason I chose the Ace of Hearts for number 10 is because people actually only have one heart, typically. So the Ace of Hearts represents that, right? Notice how there's only actually one heart on the card. Just like there is one heart in people. Cool, at least I think. Cool, okay, so we're going to move on now to number 9 here. So number 9 is the King of Hearts. So much like the Jack of Hearts earlier, the King is kind of glancing at the heart, but it almost has some perspective, like he's glancing out at an angle like that. So he's seeing the heart in his peripheral vision, but he's not actually staring right at it. And I think that also says something kind of deep about ourselves. He is, because he's not looking directly at it, he doesn't want the heart to acknowledge that he is looking at it, but he really is. And I think that is quite profound, actually. So that's why we have the King here at number 9. Cool. So with number 8, ironically enough, we're going to use the 7 of Spades. And the reason that is because the 7 of Spades it's quite a random card. So if you were to ask someone to think of a card at random, they probably wouldn't choose the 7 of Spades. And that's just because it's kind of like in the middle of the numbers, but not quite. It's not a 5, but it's also like it's not what you would think of first, right? The suit, maybe, but not the number. And that's why I think the 7 of Spades deserves the number 8 spot, because it's typically very underappreciated. And the goal of this video, I think, is to, a lot of it is to bring attention to lesser known, more indie cards. Cool. So we're going to move on to number 7 here. And then for the number 7, we have the 2 of Hearts. So the reason the 2 of Hearts is at number 7 and not any higher or lower is because humans don't have 2 hearts, but 2 humans have 2 hearts. So, and most people that frequently hang out with other humans say that it's pretty good. So so that's why I think 2 hearts belongs up here instead of down lower. So that's why I think 2 hearts deserves the number 7 slot. All right. So for number 6, we're going to use the King of Spades. Now, notice how the spade is kind of an upside-down heart, and the king is kind of looking away from it this time, right? And I think that's also quite profound. He's turning away from what makes him unhappy, which is since the spade is kind of an opposite heart, and the heart makes him happy. He's kind of turning away from that, and even though he's not looking towards anything, he kind of acknowledges that feeling nothing is kind of better than feeling upset, and maybe in looking over towards nothing, he might find something he likes even more than of course this nasty alternative here. Cool, I think that is quite profound. And alright, let's move on to number 5. Now number 5 is the Joker, which is kind of unorthodox. A lot of people just take the Joker and throw them out of the deck once they get a new deck, whether that's for whatever they're using the deck for, often playing cards or whatever. So the Joker often gets tossed aside, and I think a lot of us can relate to that. We kind of feel like we're used because we're open it up, and we are sometimes used just for our niche uses that people find for us, but we don't really have a larger place in the deck or in society. So I think the Joker is actually quite a strong metaphor for someone who feels kind of isolated and like they're not. They don't belong, and I think that a lot of those kinds of people would find solace in the Joker. So that's why I have him up at number 5, or her, I'm not sure. So with number 4, we have the Queen of Hearts, and the reason that is because I think if you were to ask someone to think of a card, a lot of the times they're going to think of the Queen of Hearts, because the Queen is the only definitively female card. The numbers, obviously, as far as I know, numbers don't have any kind of gender affiliation, and the king and jack are pretty clearly males. So I think the queen is kind of unique in that she kind of brings a feminist outlook to the deck of cards, and that is sometimes needed in this deck of cards, which is a very male and number dominated world. And of course, the heart once again kind of represents the profound need that the king also felt earlier, to look towards something that they like, however, not directly at it, because, you know, if you stare at the sun, you might go blind. So for number 3, we're going to bring in the Ace of Spades, which I think you guys were expecting to see this high up. It is often it's a poster child of cards, so in most decks there's a big ace right in the middle as the Ace of Spades. It's got a very fancy design to it. In this deck, there's a little, like a land lobster looking thing, and so I think the Ace of Spades kind of stands out. It's kind of the president almost of the deck, or the prime minister, and because of its status, a lot of the other cards look up to it. And I know I said that this was kind of about bringing attention to some lesser known cards as well. I think the Ace of Spades also deserves kind of a shout out as just kind of heading the deck, because a lot of people think he has an easy job. A lot of people remember him just because he is the Ace of Spades. He's the big cheese of the whole deck, right? But his job isn't easy. A lot of people think it is, but you know, sometimes being on top can be lonely and difficult, and that the Ace of Spades definitely feels that on a daily basis. All right, so for number 2, we're gonna have the Jack of Spades. Now, the Jack is, I believe, younger than the King and Queen. You could almost consider him their offspring, right? Now, because of this, I'm going to assume he's kind of in a teenage perspective at this point, right? He's much younger. He's got a lot of his life ahead of him, and he's also already figured out that he needs to look away from the things that make him upset, which is often something that comes with wisdom. So when we shout out the King of Spades earlier, the King has been around for quite a while. So he knows that he needs to look away from the things that make him upset, like upside down reverse hearts, right? But the Jack has figured this out at such a young age, and I think that's quite impressive. And I think he goes underappreciated for that reason. So I think that's why he deserves the number 2 slot here. All right, and so for the number 1 card in the entire deck, I think you guys would be expecting this for certain. So I'm going to use the 3 of Diamonds as the number 1 card in the deck. And the reason for that is I think because a lot of people, if you were to ask someone, you know, what their favorite card is, I think it'd be pretty difficult to find someone who said any other card other than the 3 of Diamonds. The 3 of Diamonds is quite a people pleaser, and I think the reason for that is because typically if you have a group of 2 people, right, and then they each have a diamond, having that 3rd diamond there, it kind of helps. If the 2 people that have a diamond kind of have an argument, then that's obviously can cause some issues. But if there's a 3rd diamond there to kind of, you know, maybe talk it out, get a compromise going, settle things down among the other 2, then I think that's actually a very beneficial arrangement that they have. And not only that, I think the one who helps the other 2 out with their issues, he also gets something from that because he gets some companionship there as well. Where the Ace of Diamonds, say, who is just the 1 diamond, might not. He would just be quite a lonely diamond. And that is my top 10 cards in the deck. So let me know what you guys think down in the comments. Let me know if you would have chosen other cards. But those are my top 10 cards in the deck, and please let me know what you think. Thank you so much, and have a wonderful day.